Welcome to the Cloud Pod, where the forecast is always cloudy. We talk weekly about all things AWS, Google, and Azure. We are your hosts,
Justin,
Jonathan,
and Peter.
Episode 15, recorded on March 19th, 2019. The Cloud Pod eats 31.4 trillion pieces of pie. Good evening, guys. It's another lovely Tuesday here at the Cloud Pod. And of course, I am drinking a lovely Macallan 12 this evening. What about you guys?
I've got a couple of items here on my desk. I've got a...
Are you two-fisting it, like one in each hand, and just as we go, you drink both?
Maybe. I'm there. No, actually, I got plenty of room on the desk here, so I'll probably be one at a time. But I started with the Bohemia, and then you posted your thing that you were bringing a Macallan, and I got jealous. So I just poured myself a little bit of Nika single malt.
Nice.
Justin very kindly dropped over a Macallan for me too, so I'm at least two or three fisting it right now because I already came prepared. So thanks, Justin.
You're welcome.
It's going to be an interesting show by the time we drink all this stuff.
Yeah,
I only have one. You guys are the one who have multiple quantities, so I'll try to keep us on track.
Yeah.
All right. So first of all, we got some feedback about how I and maybe the rest of us are saying Azure.
Azure.
Azure apparently is the proper way, which, you know, I kind of subconsciously knew that, but I've always said it the other way because I don't know, my bad upbringing or something. So I will attempt now to say it properly, or I'll just punt out and say, Microsoft announced versus Azure. So we'll see how that goes. But things happen, and so we'll try to get better here at the Cloud Pod, and we like your feedback, so we appreciate that tip from Greg on the website who commented on last week's episode.
Thanks, Greg.
Yes, indeed. So I also happened to have the children this weekend on Sunday because my wife was spring cleaning like crazy. And so they were forced to listen to episode 14 with me because it dropped on Sunday, and I was listening to it. And so my son wanted me to pass along some feedback. And so I thought it would be fun to share it without you guys seeing it in advance. So that way you could enjoy the feedback as I did in the car. So the first thing, we happened to be using Waze at the time that we were driving. And so Waze continued to interrupt us, that there were potholes on the road and cars stopped on the side. And, he thought that we should, first of all, mention that Waze isn't always accurate, because there were several scenarios where cars were on the side of the road that were not in Waze or were reported as in Waze but weren't there. So he was saying that's cloud related, and that Waze should fix that, which is technically Google. So he's sort of right. So that's his first piece of feedback. So we thought we should mention Waze on the podcast, which I use all the time for navigation. I don't know about you guys. The second point he had was that we need more famous people on the podcast. And so I asked him for some examples, and he suggested that we get Bill Gates on. So if either of you can help with that, I would really appreciate it. He also said, maybe the Amazon CEO or the Google CEO or whoever those people are, he doesn't know anyways. And then he also mentioned Tim Cook, potentially from Apple. So, that's good. So maybe we can work on that for him. I'm sure we can make that happen. He's also now been researching other podcasts that we should be advertising on about our podcast. And all of them he's chosen would cost us several $1,000s to run advertising on. So I'm working on that. But he would like to have a quorum call with us to discuss advertising options to continue to build out the podcast. So, just keep that in mind as we, as future invites come out from my son to both of you. He has demanded both of your phone numbers and that he wants to have this call immediately.
We should do that. So if we make him a T-shirt and make him wear it for school, would that work?
Yeah, maybe. I think so. Yeah, definitely.
We could try that, and we could also try finding a Tim Apple to get on the show just for yucks and giggles.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe we can get his principal on. Maybe she's enough of a celebrity for him. I don't know. And then of course the last question he asked was he wanted to know what the cloud is. He wasn't really sure, and I said, well, we haven't really talked about it, which he pointed out he knows because he's listened to every episode. That we never explained actually what the cloud is. And so I tried to answer it in the car, and I think I gave him an acceptable answer, but he did want your answers as well. So Jonathan, what is the cloud?
Well, this should be a really easy question to answer, but it's not. A lot of people say that the cloud is just running things in other people's computers, and I don't agree with that entirely. I think that's part of it. It's a philosophy. It's consuming resources as a service. I guess the cloud is the connected network of services and resources that we can use to do things. That's a big question. How old is he again?
He's 9. I was impressed that he knew who Bill Gates was. I think he only knows who Bill Gates is because we talked about him being one of the richest people in the world once. It was definitely a fun conversation with him to hear his critique of our podcast in basically real time. How about you, Peter? Do you have an answer for my son, Corbin?
Oh, who's got a better answer than me?
No way, man. I'm way worse. Literally, it is just somebody else's servers, but just really easy to use.
So I basically summed it up to him as like, it's the thing that pays the bills, and don't worry about it. It's just someone else's computer. And that seemed to be satisfactory at the time. Hopefully this feedback from him is well received, and I'll get that call scheduled to talk about our advertising and celebrity guest situation later.
I'll get right on the celebs thing.
Going into last week's episode, we had a great episode with our guest, and we talked a lot about the open distro for Elasticsearch. And we recorded on Tuesday, which was basically 24 hours since that was dropped on the internet. And so after our podcast, of course, there's been some really great analysis. Adam Jacobs, who runs the Open Software Foundation, has a great blog. And his comment is the only winner between Elasticsearch and Amazon is free software. And free software is the winner. And this is what the tenets of open source are. And he also had a Twitter thread that was interesting. His big complaint actually was not that they are doing this fork, but that they are choosing to use the Elasticsearch brand and the name of it. And that he felt was kind of a crappy move. And I sort of agree with. That does cause confusion in the market. It's not open distro for MySQL. It's MariaDB. And they renamed it for that reason. And so I think that's really interesting. And then the other big article that I read that I thought was worth sharing with the listeners was the Cloud Open Source Powder Keg. And so this was from RedMonk, and they basically were talking about this is an inevitable fight that had to happen at some point. When all of these open source companies began, the cloud was just not a competitor to them. It was the future. And they were focusing on the competitors of the past, which was on-premise software and proprietary licensing. And now this is a new paradigm that we have to discover and we have to address, and we have to figure out what the right model is going forward.
I think it's fun watching the market figure it out and just sitting back with my popcorn and watching. Since I don't really have a vested interest in either side, it's interesting and fun.
Yeah, definitely. So if you have follow-up items where you think we made a mistake or feedback on how we say funny words, you can now join us on our Slack channel. You can find that at the website, thecloudpod.net. On the top menu bar, there's a link to Slack, and you get an invite to our Slack channel, and you can talk with Peter, Jonathan, and I. You can also tag us on Twitter with the CloudPod, or you can use our handy feedback form on thecloudpod.net or comment on one of the episodes directly like Greg did. This week's topics. So first one's a quick one. Amazon Reinforce registration is now officially open. This is the security conference in June in Boston. The price is $10.99 list price, but they are offering you $300 off. So you can go for $7.99 while supplies last. And they do fully expect this event to sell out, which based on the size of the Boston Convention Center, I would expect it might sell out pretty quickly. So if you have not yet bought your tickets, I would maybe jump out there and get them soon.
I am registered.
It does conflict with something that I have going on that week and Jonathan has going on that week. So we are trying to figure out if that conflict will be happening or not. And then we're working that out on our side. I would definitely like to be there.
And it looks like it's small enough to where, and hopefully we'll get some really interesting, deep sessions as well.
Yeah, as always, I hope that we get enough enterprise customers there and we get some mind share with those other organizations, because I think one of the biggest challenges we have in dealing with security in the cloud is convincing the more traditional information security staff that the cloud is a safe place and that it's okay and that there are best practices to follow. And sharing information with other organizations that have been through these challenges is always great value.
The biggest, if you're going to get signed up, the most important part is to go get your hotel right away, because they are expensive already.
It's Boston. I'm just going to sleep in a bar.
Oh, there you go.
I wonder if our reInvent trick of just getting an Airbnb would work. Azure has simplified environment setups for ISO 27000 with some new blueprints. So Azure Blueprints is a free service that helps customers deploy and update cloud environments in repeatable manners. The Azure Blueprint for ISO includes hardened infrastructure resources like the firewall, the key vault, the Azure monitor, increased policy controls, a VDC architecture, ISO 27001 controls, and documentation. And they are saying they expect to announce additional blueprints for security, including high trust, PCI DSS, NHS, which is a British thing apparently, FedRAMP, and CIS benchmarking.
I'm really pleased to see something like this. It's been a challenge trying to deploy any kind of large environment in any cloud and meet security requirements. Do we talk about what ISO 27001 is?
It's a general set of security controls and best practices based off NIST, which is the National Standard Board for the United States. And I also believe it is based on some of the BSI standards as well from Britain. And basically, dictate how to do things like DR, access control, separation of duties, etc. that are all very standard. Most security programs are built off of an ISO 27001 model.
For years we had those reference architectures for every single solution that you bought. And you were never certain if they were going to have enough detail and how you're going to implement them. And now that we can do it all as code, is Azure blueprints, are they just delivered as like templates?
Yeah, they're basically like CloudFormation style templates that provision Azure based policies and documentation.
Yeah, I mean, just getting it as code, talk about speeding up the process, man. It's so cool.
It's all about repeatable deployments, and that's one of the big concerns.
Yeah. How often do you think you guys will end up using this for your Azure projects?
I think that what I would probably end up doing is starting with one of these blueprints to see what they include in them. So reading through all the documentation of these, a lot of these providers, especially when it comes to what conditions they have in their BAAs, you want to make sure you're architecting to meet that, because what you build might be functionally accurate and it might even pass a high trust audit, but if it's not compliant with the provider's BAA, you might not be covered in the event of a breach from a legal standpoint. So seeing how they do it behind the scenes would probably be the value in this. And then probably starting from scratch would be a requirement, because a lot of this stuff, there's just no way for Microsoft to go build something knowing what areas that we're going to have to parameterize in order to stamp out, multiple environments, multiple regions, or leveraging multiple apps. Too many things that must be hard coded for them, since they don't know your use case. So I think it would be just a super cool learning tool, a good starting point for people who have a super simple workload, and then a great learning tool for people who are building on that platform.
Definitely a starting point, and that's something you'd want to deploy without some consideration, because there's always difference of opinion about what these controls mean or what they require, especially around things like firewalls and physical security. When you get into PCI and segregation of different parts of the network, well, do security groups in AWS cover the firewall piece? I mean, they're stateful, but they're not an appliance, and so you still get people deploying appliances on EC2 to do the same work. So it's good in a way that they're saying that we believe that what we're putting into these blueprints meets these basic requirements. I'm sure there'll still be some wiggle room around real implementation details.
It's something with the problem with most of these blueprints, in Amazon or in Google or in Microsoft, is that they typically expect that you're starting from bare bones. And so, if you're trying to adopt this blueprint into your existing infrastructure, that may be difficult and something you should take a very hard look at before you move right into this, because hardening of your policies may actually break things that you've already deployed if you haven't thought that through or weren't concerned about it at the time when you first built it. So take it with a grain of salt. Take a look at it before you go apply happy, but definitely a great move in the right direction.
Yeah, CIS, at least from a server standpoint, hardening almost always breaks something if you've got a complex environment that you didn't start with that benchmark.
So Azure SQL Data Warehouse is now in preview for workload importance. So workload importance gives data engineers the ability to use importance to classify requests. This allows transactions that are of higher importance to have guaranteed quicker access to resources, which helps meet your SLAs. And they reminded you that their motto is more with less, and so you can now get more faster queries with less work on your hand, is potentially what they're saying.
More faster. I mean, I guess quality of service for big data queries. I mean, it makes sense. It's a good idea.
I think it was a little interesting because my initial reaction reading through it was, well, why wouldn't you just scale up resources as needed, and so that you have a very level playing field of access and a standard SLA. And they pointed out in their article, actually, in the answer to my own question, which was potentially in your big data environment you may have budget pressures or scaling down is a requirement, and you never know when the CEO is going to be, hey, what is our sales numbers this week? And maybe if it's the middle of the night and you have a batch process loading data. You don't want the CEO to have a bad experience. Why 2 a.m. when you want to get that query back to him as fast as possible? So it is actually not a bad play. I'm curious to see if they extend this into their other data warehousing products, or if it's just going to be something they do in SQL. This week is the Global Developer or Gaming Developers Conference, and Microsoft and Google and Amazon have been very active this week announcing multiple things. So Microsoft started off with a new initiative they're calling Microsoft Game Stack. This is committed to bringing together tools and services to empower game developers to deliver services and capabilities to gaming solutions quicker and faster. So this includes several things they acquired from a company called PlayFab, which is an acquisition they did a year ago. That allows them to do things like real-time analytics, live ops capabilities, matchmaking. They also have several pieces from the Xbox side where they now have the ability to use Xbox Live across multiple devices, like SDK, for Android and iOS with an SDK, the trusted game identity, and just an overall robust gaming community. And then Amazon announced 190 new features for Lumberyard, which is their main building block for gaming, as well as a new game lift real-time service or servers is now in preview. And then Google initially had just kind of wrote a blog post over the weekend about how you can do game development more flexible and open with Google Cloud, which really just highlighted their big machine learning and capabilities of instances. And then this morning they announced their new internet streaming game solution. So the ability to actually have a game hardware in a Google Cloud data center that's then being streamed to you as the end user. So you can play high performance games in 4K on your Google Chromebook, for example.
Definitely a move to move the compute into the cloud and to the edge. I think gone are the days where you could go to the store and buy a game for $30, $40 anymore. It's all going to be pay-per-use, pay-to-play, and pay-to-win. I'm not quite sure how I feel about this. I mean, they all seem to be tending towards the same thing. Obviously, it's a market they're trying to compete for. There's a bunch of money involved in it. And Steam also announced this week they're opening up their own network to any developers to use their DDoS-protected game connectivity as well. So I guess it's all related to the conference, but it's going to be exciting. And how many people want to buy a Chromebook and play Call of Duty on it, though? I don't know.
If I could buy the cheapest Chromebook possible and be able to play Call of Duty, that would be kind of awesome. Because right now I have to buy a pretty high-powered gaming laptop. And so, I definitely see the advantages, but I find it funny that both, NVIDIA and Google talked about, this is the first time anyone's produced a cloud-based streaming solution for gaming. And I'm pretty sure there was a couple other players who did this several years ago who were maybe a bit too early, too soon. Isn't out in GA yet, so you can't play any games on it yet. But the demos they showed today were pretty impressive.
Sony's had their streaming service for quite a long time, streaming legacy games that were no longer supported on PS4.
Well, in legacy games, I'm not really as worried about because they're typically, 16-bit or 32-bit. They're not typically, massive multiplayer worlds. They're not 4K. They're very low resolution, so it's easy to pipe that data over the internet in a streaming fashion. This is, they're promising up to 4K resolution being streamed over the internet to you. So, assuming, of course, on your bandwidth, I assume.
You buy a $100 Chromebook and then spend $100 a month on the internet to support it.
Yeah. You got to see competition in this space, though, as potentially going to accelerate not just the games, right, but the platform that the game developers have to work with, just allow them to be creative. It's going to be super fun to see that market evolve. And I mean, I'd hope pricing would actually end up getting more competitive with more players and, more features allowing different monetization methods. So hoping things get better.
On an individual provider basis, it's going to be great for the players because now there's a unified messaging system, there's a unified chat. You can talk to your friend who's not playing even the same game as you. And they will get the protection of DDoS protection and other kind of network protections. I think it'll be a positive in the end for the players. We won't need to download hundreds of gigabytes of updates whenever we turn the PlayStation on. That's a really frustrating thing. You don't play a console in a couple of months and you switch it on. I've got half an hour to play. The kids, let's play a game, and then it's like, oh, you've got to update your Xbox and it takes 45 minutes. I'm like, really? So at least as far as gaming experience goes, we should be able to just flick this thing on and instant boot up times and no security patches to apply and that kind of thing. So I think it'll be good for everybody.
It does feel like this bet is a little bit dated though, because isn't the future of gaming supposed to be virtual reality? And I assume the latency between a computer tower and your head is already a problem for some people where it can cause massive headaches or nausea. The cloud only would add more latency to that story. So I mean, does this actually solve a problem that needs to be solved if the gaming world is moving more towards VR long term?
Yeah, and I hope it doesn't completely kill the offline gaming industry because there's something to be said for playing games when you're not connected. You go someplace, you get on a train or an aircraft or something and you fly somewhere and it's nice to be able to play a game. And if this were to push the market to much more to online and less to offline games, that'd be a bit of a loss.
I mean, isn't the future all online games according to Ready Player One?
Yeah.
Maybe we're in the game now.
Yeah.
Maybe so. Well, let's move on to an area that we understand a little bit better. How about eating pie, Peter? Have you eaten any pie in the last week?
Man, I haven't. I can't remember the last time. I can't remember the last time I ate a pie. It must have been Thanksgiving.
Well, you should have had some pie on March 14th, which is, of course, International Pie Day. Of course, it's the other type of pie. And Google has celebrated by breaking the Guinness Book of World Records title for calculating the most number of digits of pi, currently at 31.4 trillion digits. They apparently did this over 111 days, which is basically 7.6 machine years on 25 nodes. They use the N1 MegaMem-96 instance, which is a 96 vCPU with 1.4 terabytes of RAM. And they took regular snapshots of this data, and those snapshots are available to you, the public, to now go run all those massive calculations you needed to have 31.4 trillion digits of pi to understand and calculate.
Did they also win the most pointless world record as well? Because that number of digits is just there for marketing purposes only, and
for sure,
there's no value whatsoever to anybody.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because Corey Quinn actually calculated out how much this instance cost. Being the cloud economist that he is, it was something around $220,000 to run this experiment. And I was like, well, I guess, if you had nothing else to do with those hardware, because no one's using the large instances on Google Cloud, I guess you could use them for this purpose. You paid for them already. Why not?
And then that's retail price, what's their margin? 70%, 60%, 70%. So.
Well, sure. I mean, Google's cost is much less, but if you as a individual wanted to go repeat this and get to 31.5 trillion digits of pi, you should have a couple $100,000 in the bank to do so.
Notably, it was a little cheaper with the Amazon cloud, and that was even with the just the on-demand pricing. So with spot instances, if you can wait a little longer, we could probably beat this.
Yeah, maybe so. Sounds great. Maybe we can get a sponsor to do that for us next year at Pi Day.
Speaking of AWS, when I think of cloud, I think of Foghorn Consulting. Foghorn has been around since 2008. They've been on the forefront of cloud enablement and have delivered powerful transformations for hundreds of clients, from startups to Fortune 500, including highly regulated industries. They were early visionaries and practitioners of using code to automate infrastructure and operations to drive up cloud efficiencies while driving down costs. Terraform, Ansible, Jenkins, AWS, Azure, and GCP. Go to fogops.io/thecloudpod to learn more about their FogOps services and sign up for a free, well-architected framework review.
Google Cloud for Next 19, which is happening in literally 3 weeks. The schedule is now available for you to go schedule your sessions. Thomas Kurian will be keynoting. This is his first keynote as the new CEO of Google Cloud. And he'll be joined by Anthony Goldblum, the founder of Kaggle, Kelsey Hightower of Kubernetes fame, Melody McFessel of GCP, VP of Engineering, and then several customers, including Target, CBS, and Scotiabank. There will be over 500 breakout sessions, panels, boot camps, and hands-on labs at the event, and they are broken into 5 core areas: the world-class infrastructure, application development, data management, analytics and intelligence, and productivity and collaboration, which I guess that technically means 7, but they put that "and" in there. So there you go. Anything you guys interested in at the Google Cloud this year?
I am not going to get to go to the Google Cloud this year. I'm going to be in the Midwest. I know. Bummed.
Well, we are going to do a draft game here in 2 weeks where we try to guess what they're going to announce at Google Cloud next. Ooh. So you can at least be there in spirit.
I can.
Yeah, we will definitely get you the rules next week so you know how to play along. But you'll basically try to pick the 4 things that Google will announce for each of us. And then whoever wins out on that will be the victor for when we get to the Reinforce conference, where we then you get some benefits of being the winner. Yeah, so it's very similar to how Upgrade runs their drafts for Apple events. I don't know if you ever listened to the Upgrade podcast from Relay FM, but they do a draft at all of the big Apple events. And so we're going to shamelessly steal their format and leverage it here. So GCP is turning data into March Madness insights. This is all for March Madness, which is happening in the world of college basketball for all those people who are into that. GCP is currently the official cloud of the NCAA. Last year, they turned those predictions into real-time TV commercials that aired during the Final Four, basically giving you the probability of one of the 2 teams winning the match. They have over 80 years of history from the NCAA that they have now put into their systems and big data. And then you can actually take a Quick Labs course now to teach you how to use BigQuery to analyze all that fantastic NCAA data. There will also be 2 boot camps at Google Cloud Next on how to use this data and how to make it interesting. And so if you're really into basketball, this is a super fun way that maybe you can use that free BigQuery tier that we talked about a few weeks ago to analyze some of this data and maybe make some wise decisions on your betting.
That sounds like fun. You could go in and see if you can find out where people have been paid off to lose games and things like that. Find the corruption in the game using data-driven analytics.
Well, I'm sure there are several teams this year that in the first round there were some big upsets. So maybe people will just point to those and say that, well, it's right there. I don't know, but
enjoy it while we can, because I think within a few years' time we won't even need the players anymore. We'll have enough data from the last 100 years worth of gaming that we can just create an AI league and AI games that we can just watch virtual reality.
Impossible. I say impossible. In fact, I would love to see the amount of GCP compute that set the world record for the number of digits in pi, and see how well it could do with NCAA bracket.
Ooh, that's a good challenge. Maybe they will do something like that. Maybe we'll find out here after the events are over and they announce it. The Final Four will actually be right around the time Google Cloud Next is happening. So I'm sure it'll be part of their main stage presentation as well as what they're doing with the NCAA. So we look forward to learning more. All right. Cloudflare, which is assumed to be one of the unicorns that would IPO this year, has apparently instead raised a fresh $150 million in funding. This was apparently raised by Franklin Resources and included money from Alphabet, Microsoft, Qualcomm, and more. They've raised over $330 million to date, and they process over 10% of the world's internet traffic. This is relevant to us here at the Cloud Pod because both Google and Microsoft announced a partnership with Cloudflare last year where they actually route most of the outbound traffic from their networks through the Cloudflare network. They're apparently going to use this money on R&D and beefing up their international presence.
Yeah, I was so surprised to see that they're using an external vendor for so much of their traffic.
But they're good at what they do. They have a good network, they're fast, and they've been very reliable over the years. So I can understand why build your own, why go to that expense on building out your own network when you can pay somebody else to do it. That's the whole model of the cloud.
Well, yeah, or you can buy them. There's all kinds of different options of how you could get this capability in your cloud. But the partnership's nice that it keeps the options open and you don't take a player out of the market. So it's good.
Yeah, that's a lot of money this close to an IPO, though.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like they're going to be delaying their IPO probably for another year or till the second half of the year. And I assume this is based on Goldman Sachs coming in to underwrite their IPO and saying, hey, your financials could be beefed up just a little bit. Amazon Web Services has joined the GraphQL Foundation to help build an open and vibrant GraphQL community. So when Amazon apparently moved to small pizza box teams, they learned the value of a good API. And many product teams across Amazon, such as Twitch and Goodreads, rely heavily on GraphQL to deliver simple and friendly and powerful APIs. There's a quote here in the article, GraphQL is a foundation technology for building APIs that empower front-end developers to deliver the best user experience for their customers. With AWS AppSync and the Amplify framework, Amazon Web Services is enabling developers to build and run critical GraphQL workloads at scale, and we are excited to join the foundation to support and grow the GraphQL community, said Adrian Cockcroft, Vice President of Cloud Architecture Strategy.
I'm really happy about this. One of the problems we've had in moving workloads to the cloud, which were traditionally running in private data centers, is that as we've upgraded those private data centers to 10 gig networking and very closely connected servers, it's been very cheap and easy to move around huge payloads between endpoints. We can make a query and have it return a 15 meg document back, and we haven't really had to give any consideration to bandwidth utilization or the time it takes to move that data around. But as we transition these workloads to the cloud, it's becoming an issue now because now we've got direct connect, we've got other lease lines, or just the internet to deal with, and it's becoming more and more necessary for the performance of our applications to use something like GraphQL to trim down the responses to just what we care about. So I'm excited by this.
This would have come in handy if could have used that for Amazon's AWS's API calls, when you run into their API limits like 5 years ago. And if you start looking and your payloads get pretty big on describe calls and things that even if you filter, you find out that the CLI is filtering it after it pulls it down.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed that the query and the filter, it was all client side. This is a move for the better.
Sure. That's cool.
Hopefully. I mean, the filters are always kind of weird too in the CLI. They're a bit clunky.
The syntax is one of my favorite things though, because I use it because nobody knows it and it's not intuitive. And so I always use it. I'm giving away a little secret here, but I always use it on text screens. because I could see people do something I know they don't know how to do.
Nice. So you use it as kind of your litmus
Yeah.
test? Oh, interesting. I might steal that from you, although we just gave it away. But I mean,
Yeah,
although
it's
I have noticed, I
fine.
have actually noticed in the recent interviews that I've been doing with candidates that several of them are now listening to the podcast or noticing that I host a podcast on my LinkedIn. And so then they mention it in the interview. And it's always interesting the questions they ask, from why are you doing this thing to, really excited about it. So it's kind of interesting litmus test in its own.
Yep.
If they now listen to the podcast and they're interviewing with Peter, they might be able to ace your question. We'll see.
Yeah, but then I'll know, and then I'll just think of something else on the spot. I hope they're listening.
All right. So get those Jedi lightsabers out. Azure Government is the first cloud to achieve DoD Impact Level 5 provisional authorization and GA of their DoD regions. This is a key step to getting the lucrative Jedi contract locked down. They are the first commercial cloud service to be awarded this level by the Defense Information Systems Agency. The authorization allows all U.S. DoD customers to leverage Azure Government for the most sensitive, controlled, unclassified information. And this includes also announcement on the DoD regions, which allows you to basically isolate all of your infrastructure from non-DoD customers. And this is a key deliverable for being able to assure that the government's data is secured and protected at all times.
I thought Amazon would be the first for this.
I think they're very close. I would not be surprised if they announce something similar next week at their summit in Santa Clara. I think they were actively working towards this goal and getting this done in time to hopefully win the Jedi contract.
Yeah, they said Q1. I guess they got a couple of weeks left.
I was surprised. Yeah, I would have thought Amazon would have got over the line first, and yeah, it's cool to see competition. I love it. I love competition in the marketplace. Microsoft's going after it.
In the article, there was actually mentioned through our partnership, Microsoft provided direct access to product group engineers, compliance support, training, and other resources needed to bring our SaaS solutions to the DoD. This is by one of their customers, Defense Ready Cloud. So it definitely sounds like Microsoft's been very heavily working this problem from not only the DoD perspective, but also from the SaaS providers who leverage the DoD uses. And maybe they were just able to get a little bit of a jump start on Amazon by a few weeks or so to address it.
Or maybe Amazon did it weeks ago and they just haven't announced it yet because
they
didn't have to. Who knows?
Well, that's very possible too. It's definitely something they don't have to announce as long as the people who are in charge of the Jedi contract are aware. I'm anxiously waiting to see what happens with the Jedi contract and who wins it and why. On our last news story for the week, Azure Data Studio supports Postgres. So their open source GUI for Postgres allows you to now query Postgres natively inside Azure Data Studio, which is used for most of the data warehousing products on Azure. It is available on Linux, Mac OS, and Windows, and it integrates a terminal so you can drop into pSQL at any time you wish to. This also included a new extension for Visual Studio Code, which is Microsoft's free lightweight code editor that allows you to jump right into Postgres SQL. So this is a pretty nice little improvement and upgrade.
I love the tools Microsoft are building and releasing this year. They're going above and beyond any of the other providers in enabling people to do their dev work and to use their own platforms.
Yeah, fearlessly.
It's a totally different Microsoft than five years ago.
But they've always had really great tools. They've just always been so locked into the Windows ecosystem that no one could use them if you use Linux or Mac OS. And so, the ability now you can use SQL Server on top of Linux. You can this tool here, VS Code. It's nice to see them being more open and capable. And a lot of these tools are really valuable and can be used in a lot of different scenarios and are quick start guides for teams to use every day. So, I know I sent this over to our DBA and he uses Azure Data Studio all the time and he was super excited about this enhancement. Well, that's all of our big news for this week. How about the lightning round, Peter?
This is packed today.
2 weeks in a row, it's been just absolutely packed.
If it's too much for either of you, feel free to drop out and I'll just take the credit again this week.
Take the credit? All right. We'll see how that goes. I will be focused on reading and we'll see if I can sneak in a comment or two that someone here thinks deserves a win. Okay. AWS Private Link now supports access over VPC peering.
Peering at your privates. That's great.
Cheap, low blow.
Absolutely.
This, again, peering has been around forever and private links have been around forever. Well, not forever, but at least for 6 to 9 months now. Why would you want to use a private link for this versus just the normal private link process? It's a little weird to me.
Yeah, why would you peer to somebody and then use their private link? Why not just private link to
them? Yeah.
I haven't really looked at the diagrams, but isn't this the first thing where peering is kind of non-transitive or is kind of transitive?
Yeah, I guess it's part of the non-transitive story where they're starting to allow gateway services to things like Direct Connect VPC peering.
VPC gateway, yeah.
It's a signal that their model is changing on the back end to support more transitive routes, which is really cool.
Exactly. Yeah. Amazon FSx for Lustre now supports access from Amazon Linux.
So we built a Windows file system that we now want Amazon Linux to talk to. I'm a little lost on this one.
Yeah, I'm just hoping I don't have to read 10 blog posts about people who are angry from Lustre and CentOS about Amazon Linux and FSx for Lustre.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they did exactly to make this a thing. I mean, wasn't it already an open standard?
Yeah, and it wasn't Lustre. Luster's for HPC computing, right? So aren't most HPC computers Linux based to begin with? I don't know of any non-Linux based HPC applications.
Amazon RDS for Oracle now supports in-region read replicas with active data guard.
So Data Guard is my absolute favoritely named product of all time from Oracle. Like, the Data Guard. It guards your data. It's just super exciting for me.
Larry's just standing there protecting your data.
No, he's protecting your wallet and your money. So I didn't look at the pricing for this, but I imagine that this new read replicas with Data Guard is very expensive because Data Guard alone is an add-on feature for Oracle that costs big bucks.
They build a product which makes it seem like their original product wasn't good enough. I want my data to be secure in all of your offerings, not just this one where I have to spend tens of thousands of dollars extra.
Stop it, Justin. Justin's trying to get me to read, for those people listening, to read typos, but now he's just planting time bombs in my notes real time on the screen.
We love the collaborative editing.
I can't read it. AWS Schema Conversion Tool adds support for new endpoints, none of which are called the Peter endpoint. Just want to make sure everybody knows that.
So what endpoints did they add? Do we know? Do we care about these endpoints?
No, we don't. Based on the way that you keep butchering the notes, we have no idea. No, they have one. It's interesting, right? Because the sources that they're adding include Oracle extension in Postgres, I believe. So it's migrating from Oracle to Postgres, and then SAP Adaptive Server Enterprise as a source, and then RDS and MariaDB as a target, focusing very much on getting off of proprietary technologies and onto open source. No comments on the schema conversion tool?
It doesn't excite me, I'm sorry.
How about Peter endpoints? Does it excite you that it's a Peter endpoint?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think your schema needs to be converted at some point.
AWS config can now remediate non-compliant resources.
Yay.
I mean, the feature we've been asking since the day they announced this.
Remediate being, can't we just kill them all?
Fix stuff, yeah.
Well, I mean, you could always build it yourself, right? So you could build, if Amazon Config detected you didn't tag your resources properly, you could write a Lambda function that would kill it, or notify them if you're nice, unlike me, and then kill it. But apparently now you can auto fix it, which is pretty nice. So
yeah, goodbye Redlock.
You shouldn't beat up on Redlock. Maybe someday they'll be a sponsor.
Yay, Redlock!
Yay! We'd love to talk to you about sponsoring the podcast. Anyways, so for that one time, Jonathan said goodbye to them. It's awkward.
The Amazon AppStream 2.0 now supports iPad and Android tablets.
Great. Now I can get my kids to do my work for me.
So if you ever use AppStream for Internet Explorer or Firefox or Chrome, you'll know that it's a terrible experience because those apps are not really made for being in a web browser. So I can't imagine that a device that doesn't have a mouse is going to handle it much better. So I am curious to see how this actually works out.
It's like if MySpace had invented Citrix.
Right? That is fantastic. That you win on that alone.
Oh no.
Right, except they did just lose 13 years worth of people's data, like 50 million songs or something like that of uploads during some server migration. So
okay, really though, if your music that you created, it was still on MySpace at this day, you should be fully complacent with the fact that they deleted all your data.
Yeah, I scrubbed the internet for all traces, or at least all the traces I could find of my my history. It's just embarrassing.
I stopped Googling myself a long time ago because I realized I don't like what I find.
Yes.
Ignore the problem, it'll go away.
But then Citrix, what was it when Citrix didn't they announce recently that they'd been compromised by a foreign nation or or some group and lost tons of terabytes of custom data as well.
Ugh, awful.
At least what MySpace lost was...
Well, unless you're a music artist that needed that music to monetize.
Yeah, I just don't know if I could stand losing yet another San Francisco cover band of some kind of Gaelic music from the 1990s. God,
I mean,
the internet used to be a great place.
I mean, I assume that most people would be more upset if SoundCloud lost their 5 years of music history than MySpace. MySpace wasn't in the show notes.
To be fair, I didn't even know MySpace was still around. I thought they shut down years ago, like GeoCities did and all those other ancient...
So I believe I heard someone tell me one time that they are absolutely huge in some place like Brazil or something like that, where MySpace is still predominant there. But it definitely does not have the traction that it once did. But you could go back there if you're unhappy with Facebook's privacy stance, because MySpace just deletes the data, so it's fine.
And no backups. That's even better.
Cool. So perfect.
AWS Glue enables running Apache Spark SQL queries.
Sparks around Glue may be flammable.
Better than nothing. I'm gonna give that comment better than nothing, since we didn't say anything.
I have nothing to say. What do you say about
better than nothing? Better than nothing.
I mean, if I use Spark on a regular basis, I might be really excited about this. But then, you go into that Glue console and it's like, ugh.
I just love when we put a SQL interface on top of things that are no SQL.
I love SQL interfaces on things. I worked with a Postgres interface to AWS accounts years ago. Like, you literally query these Postgres tables as though they were your Amazon account. You could select instances from, select instance ID from instances table, and it was all kind of mapped on the back end. It's pretty cool.
It sounds like a cool tool you could talk about in a future episode.
Wow.
It does. Amazon Inspector adds support for ARM processors.
I'm happy that they're committing to the ARM fully. Linus Torvalds is way off the mark when he said that ARM for servers was never going to take off.
If security was blocking your ability to execute ARM processors, and until Inspector came out, I guess this solves that problem for you.
Yeah, now we just need all the other suite of security tools to support ARM processors so that we can start using them.
Maybe that's our trick to not having to put antivirus on servers. Is like, hey, we're using ARM. Does it support that? Now we don't have to.
Viruses. I'm sorry, our viruses don't support ARM yet. You're safe.
Yeah, you're good. You're just fine.
Yeah.
Time for our GA party. We got 3 new SLAs, all 3 nines: AWS SSM, AWS RoboMaker, and AWS Neptune. Show notes are so much fun when they're being edited live. When you're trying to talk.
99.9%. Okay.
What would we do if they announced an SLA that was above 99.9%? Like, I mean,
they have.
They have. I mean, not for data durability, they have, but not for uptime.
Yeah, durability.
RoboMaker. Who cares if RoboMaker is not available? 99.9%. I mean, there's not the end of the world if you can't play with your $350 car that you're still waiting for. Thanks, Amazon. It's supposed to be delivered 2 weeks ago. But as far as SSM goes, there's no multi-region option for SSM. If it's EC2 and you're deploying a service, you can spread it across regions and you can get better availability. But for SSM, you can't manage instances in a different region using SSM in a different region. So we're stuck with 99.9% availability for SSM. So don't build anything on top of SSM if you need it to be more reliable than this.
Well, I mean, my Roomba gets stuck at least 5 times a day. I'm going to submit it to Robot Wars here pretty soon, too. That way I can just take care of the problem permanently.
Yes.
I've got a Neato robot vacuum, not a Roomba. And it's like one of those Japanese fighting fish. If it sees its own reflection in a piece of glass or something, it fights to the death with itself.
We've had 2 Roombas and an EcoVac, and they've all had their own levels of suck.
But
I just have my house cleaned every couple of weeks.
Until it gets automated by a robot, it's not part of RoboMaker.
Not part of RoboMaker. More Mechanical Turk. AWS releases a new machine learning certification.
So you can learn how to use that SQL Server Spark thing up above and get certified.
But sure, is this the machine's going to get the certification here or the people?
Yeah, I can't. I was going to say I can't wait to get my machine certified.
I'm going to train the machine to take the test for me.
Yeah.
Can I get them to do my Amazon renewal cert? Because that'd be great. Not looking forward to renewing my cert.
Oh, Mechanical Turk maybe.
Oh,
should be able to do that.
Although they're really anal about not bringing anything into the room with you when you do it. Although I wish they would do the Salesforce method where if you get Salesforce certified, you can actually do it online with a webcam, and then they basically watch you take the test, which is sort of creepy, but also sort of awesome because I didn't have to go to some weird testing center.
That's how Google started. Their GCP started, and then I think they ditched it.
Oh, that's too bad.
Remote proctoring is pays decent money, I guess. You can sit there and watch 12, 15 people in the little individual webcam windows, making sure they're not reading the manuals and things. It's
I knew a person who was actually doing his Salesforce certification, and he was reading the questions to himself, and they literally failed him because they thought he was reading the question out loud to somebody who was in the room they couldn't see on the webcam, and so he had to take it again after that. I was like, "Ooh, that's rough."
Oh wow, that's tough. So he could just muted the microphone.
Well, so when you do the proctor thing with Salesforce, it takes over your machine in a way so that you can't turn things off, and if you do, it notifies them, and like there's a bunch of all those things violate your session and will make you fail. So,
oh wow.
I was in the facility, and the guy next to me who was taking another completely different test, like a plumbing test, was reading every question out loud right next to me.
As told us in episode 5.
Oh, really? Fun. Amazon Corretto 11, now GA.
When did it become April?
Is it 11 or 12? 12 now. 13? No. Any advance on 13? 15. Corretto 15 now in release. No, it's released again. I wish they could make their mind up about this stuff.
I literally think we've talked about Corretto now for the last 4 weeks, because I think it was first Corretto 8 was GA'd, and then they did a pre-release of Corretto 11, like an alpha, and then they did a release candidate last week, and now this week they've GA'd it. So I mean, I appreciate that we don't have to talk about Corretto anymore. In the Corretto 8 announcement, they said you will have builds available Corretto 11 in April, and it's still March. Still today, still March.
6 weeks early. At this rate, they're going to be releasing Java 12 or 13 before Oracle.
Exactly. But I would like them to now take this release process and apply it to all other products, because if we could get them to commit to some point in the future and then over deliver on that, that'd be fantastic.
Newsflash: press releases equals marketing. Azure Backup for SQL Server in Azure Virtual Machines now GA.
How did this not work before?
Was it only bare metal? It was only bare metal before, I think. Just bare metal.
Azure Backup only worked on snapshots, and it didn't work on SQL Server stuff. So,
I
mean, Azure Backup, it's a thing. So is Amazon Backup, and soon to be Google Backup, I'm sure. So,
but snapshots of what? The bare metal isn't physical drives anymore. It's map drives to a SAN someplace. It's the same drives as supports their Azure virtual machines.
I mean, the problem with SQL or any SQL database is that if you take snapshots of the EBS volume before the data is QS, you don't actually have a good backup. So if you have it in the SQL server and you can actually tell SQL server, hey, I'm about to take a backup, now you can QS it to disk and make sure your backup's better.
It's just another way to do the backup, I guess.
It's this whole mode, right, of micro improvements. Each micro improvement is worthy of a press release. Azure Container Registry now supports virtual network and firewall rules. This is in preview.
So does this mean that my Azure Container Registry used to just be on the internet, that anybody could download my containers without any security in any way possible?
I would imagine that there was still authentication and encryption.
I hope so, because if it wasn't there, I don't know that I would ever have recommended using this tool.
I don't know, but whitelisting IPs in the cloud, that's an anti-pattern.
I mean, if you can define it by this security group talks to this security group, that's not IP-based whitelisting. So it's a question of what they end up doing there.
It just feels like they're making it more in the VPC or the VNet in Azure instead of a public endpoint.
Well, I just don't know why they released this feature without it being in a VPC to begin with. Like, it should have been in the virtual network all along, because that makes the most sense.
Yeah, but I mean, lots of like ECR wasn't in the VPC to start, right?
It's true, but security is day 2 or day 3 at Azure and Amazon. Like, if you're saying Azure's security is day 1, then or day 0, then you should have this stuff out of the box.
I want everything out of the box. Amazon Chime voice connector released.
So Amazon Chime has become the Skype of telephony products.
Now anyone in the world can call Jeff Bezos on Chime.
Nice.
Amazon Chime business calling is now available.
It's just like it's a business rate, so we charge you per minute instead of giving you the flat, all calls included kind of thing.
Of course, it's charged by the minute. I mean, I guess Ring Central and all those other companies that tie to Twilio are now quaking in their boots because Chime will take over the world.
The Magic Jacks, all those guys.
So I did because these are two Chime announcements. I will tell you that I did track when they came out, and they came out in the same press release batch at the same time on the same day. So literally two what's new announcements from the RSS feed, literally within seconds of each other on the same topic. That could have been a single announcement.
I think you're being hard on these guys. I think it's like somebody builds an epic for a feature, and then they write the press release piece into the epic summary, and then as soon as all the jobs are complete and the code's committed and the service is live, it just gets pushed out. There's no thought behind any of these things. It's just a machine.
I think it's a machine, but I think the system is set up for, in general, for more press releases. More press releases equals more marketing.
If they didn't batch them all up, I would sort of agree with you because, they would basically come out as you did code pushes or code pulls got merged into their GitLabs or GitHub repos. But the fact that they all come out in these big batches every day, and it's like 2 or 3 o'clock Pacific time, they all come out 6 to 7 a day, and then I look through them and I add them to the show notes, and so it's just it just seems silly that they can't combine some of these things together. But again, we talked about this last week, I think. But what's new RSS feed is not the same thing as Jeff Barr's blog, and so I guess if they're not getting the blog treatment every time, I guess that's okay.
Amazon Work Docs now support offline content editing and offline search.
What if I want to search things that aren't in the Work Doc? Like, can it search those too, or is this really just searching Work Docs on my laptop?
It's your cached, crappy old copy, and if somebody else updated it, then you're out of luck.
Do you think it uses Open Distro for Elasticsearch to provide that search capability?
I remember when Google Gears was a thing for offline content, but that was a long time ago.
This is awesome.
Yeah, Google Gears got all plugged into HTML5 though. So
I think this is awesome. It's 2019, and I can finally work on the plane.
Well, you used to be able to work on the plane with Word, and then they put it on the cloud, and then you couldn't. So now they've given you back the feature they stole from you 5 years ago.
Exactly.
And they charge you extra for it.
Indeed.
Well, that's the end of the lightning round. And I got to say, I'm going to go ahead and keep score right now. I can say the Bohemia is empty. The single malt glass is empty. And because of those
Does this mean you've
I have to go with Justin's recommendation that Jonathan wins this week.
Yeah, I was not on my A game this week, mostly because these were just very uninspiring lightning round items.
I think the lightning round is a disservice to how long this one took. It's more like a slow flash.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe we reduce lightning round to be a little bit more selective in our choices versus try to cover.
What I forgot what I said now. What did I win for?
I can't remember, but I do know that the Bohemia is empty, and the Scotch glass is empty. And Justin said you won, so I'm going with Justin's recommendation. What did you say?
I mean, when you do the replay, you'll know what you want for. Yeah. That's fine.
It's like if MySpace had invented Citrix.
I mean, as we were trying to troll him live editing all of the show notes, we could have marked down which one we thought was a winner as we went through. But no, we were too busy, changing SSM to BDSM and a couple other things, trying to get Peter to say it. So, it's really on Jonathan and I that we don't know who won because we were too busy trying to troll Peter. For you, the listeners of the CloudPod podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook downloaded with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/thecloudpod. Again, that's audibletrial.com/thecloudpod for your free audiobook. All right, Jonathan, it's time for cool tools with you.
With me. Very lonely this week. We don't have a guest this week to talk about their own tools.
Well, but I mean, if someone has a cool tool that they want to come share with the podcast, do ping us on the feedback page on the website and say, hey, I have a tool I'd like to come talk about. And you can join us like Matt did last week and talk to us all about his tool. And we'll give you product feedback unsolicited as we did last week.
Absolutely. And unlike Amazon, we promise not to fork your repo and sell it for money. This week, in fact, we mentioned this tool a couple of weeks ago when we talked about Nginx and how bad the configuration languages and how it doesn't lend itself to automation. So the cool tool for this week is nginxconfig.io. I will not even attempt to pronounce the name of the engineer who wrote the service and maintains the service. He's Hungarian, and you can find a link to him at the bottom of the nginx.io page.
I will attempt to butcher the name now.
I'm afraid that Greg will comment again, though.
Balint Zakaris, I think is how you say that.
Zakaris.
I think so.
Okay.
I don't really know. So if I did butcher it, I apologize. Just like I did those Russian people who founded Nginx that I butchered last week in a horrible, horrible manner. So I will be the butcher in chief of the podcast.
Well, nginxconfig.io is an amazing web-based tool to build Nginx configurations. It's absolutely fully featured. You walk in there with your use case, whether it's a Django application, a Node application, reverse proxying, WordPress, anything you like, and you configure it with your domain name, paths, your public routes, any kind of security requirements that you have, and it generates the Nginx virtual server configuration for you for an easy download. It's really cool. I will admit that I don't use this to generate configs, but I do use it for reference. I'll go in here and I'll click around and I'll find out what the directives are in Nginx to do certain things, and then I'll put that into my own automation in Terraform or something. But definitely check it out. Really good tool for configuring Nginx.
Nice. I do see it supports WordPress, which our website runs on. So if I want to make some changes to the Nginx config, I can copy paste these right out of here. So that's nice.
Yeah, and it looks so nice. I'm envious of anybody who can build a web UI that looks as clean and as functional as this.
Yeah, it's like the best of both worlds because you don't have to remember the syntax, but the result of your work is code, and so it can be versioned and managed and tracked, but you don't have to remember it. Makes it so much easier to get moving.
Yeah, good job. And the guy has a couple of other projects as well, which are well worth checking out. So
he definitely has a lot of front end skills. Laravel, Lumen, Slim, Angular, Ionic. So he's definitely done a lot of work with front end and back end technologies. But yeah, this is a really nice site, and congratulations to him on producing something kind of awesome. And I'll try not to butcher his name again. So I will. That's a fantastic, cool tool, and we look forward to next week's cool tool. I think this covers everything for this week in the Cloud Pod. If you have feedback, you want to correct my pronunciation of something else, please do so at the website, either by commenting on the episode or by sending us feedback. If you are interested in coming on the show as a guest host, we are always happy to have you. And so please ping me either on Twitter at jbroadley or on the website as well. And we will try to get you scheduled into the podcast in a future week.
And that is the Week in Cloud. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Foghorn Consulting and Audible.com. Subscribe today on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, and tweet us your feedback at #TheCloudPod.
All right, what are we doing for episode title?
We could do a Pi Day thing.
Got a lot of GCP going on.
The Cloud Pod calculates 15 digits of pi because this is the 15th episode.
CloudPod eats 31.4 billion slices of pie.
Episode 15. Recorded on, what is today? March 19th. We're going with the Cloud Pod eats 31.4 billion. Is that what it was? Or trillion?
31.4, yeah. Oh, well, that's interesting. I never noticed.
Yeah, 3.14. How could you not notice that?
Oh. I didn't know that either.
You got to be kidding me.